is a battle. Have dropped 2 in a row, and now Philly in a familiar perch atop the NFC East. As I mentioned, that 6-game winning streak. Washington heads home to take on Dallas next week. Damian Woody is in studio. Lots to digest here. Let's start with this. The highlight, we showed the 4th down run where they bobble it and Daniels gets blasted. As I mentioned, there was a 2nd and 1 and a 3rd and 1 that went nowhere. It was Robinson right up the middle. 4th down, under 8 to go on the road in a 12-10 game, and you are upstairs screaming what?
Take the points. Take the points. Your defense has been balling the whole game. Offense clearly struggling. And I think, for all the people out here who hate analytics, this will drive home their point right here. That scenario. Because you got to have a feel for how the game is going. Your offense just hasn't done anything all game. You got an opportunity to go up 13-12. You played them to a draw.
Yeah.
Why do it?
And again, I mean, this is where there is, I think, a disconnect between what numbers on a page say and what had just happened in this game. And I don't know what plays Cliff Kingsbury's got. Maybe you got one in your back pocket for this very situation, and the bobbled snap it became FUBAR at that point. I don't know. But 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, you actually backed up. Right? You lost yardage on those 2 plays. And in that scenario, in a game where, despite the fact that you'd been outgained, you got to snap a hold in the kick to take the lead and then take your chances. And from there, again, this is another thing. Whether you believe momentum is real or not.
Momentum is a tricky thing.
It seemed to be wearing an Eagles jersey after that. The big and again, the big play where Goddard has the ball punched out, but Calcaterra, the one eagle in the screen, lands on it. And then Saquon, it's night-night with him, $146 and those 2 large touchdowns. How do we even begin to quantify the value of that player to this team?
Okay. Well, they're going to start talking about Eagles, and I'm going to talk about the Commanders in this video, but Eagles fans, don't worry. There's so much to say. Rather than just kind of put it in just one big, large video, I'm going to talk about this from the Commanders' perspective, and I'm also going to post another video looking at it more from the Eagles' perspective. I totally agree. Kick the field goal. That was, honestly the biggest thing that stood out to me throughout that game in terms of momentum. The way how it looked like to me is that the Commanders' offense finally started to find a rhythm. They were getting the ball to players in space. Jayden Daniels was able to play with some nice rhythm and timing, was able just to essentially call hike 1, 2, pass, hike 1, 2, pass, right? Like it was very, exactly what you want, right? On time and in rhythm. And then the drive stalled a little bit, and it was just like, no, we finally had something going offensively. We got to convert this 4th down. We got to go for it. And that's what it felt like, right? It was like a little kid who was like, no, right? Like you're playing Madden. You're like, I don't want to kick a field goal. I just want to score touchdowns. And it was just like cooler heads need to prevail in that moment. And listen, this is what I said that could happen going into this game about Jayden Daniels going up against a really great seasoned veteran defensive mind in Vic Fangio. Just decades of experience. Those types of coaches consistently in the NFL make rookie quarterbacks uncomfortable. We've just seen it no matter who you are, again and again and again. And so this was always on the table, just like it was with Mike Tomlin. No matter how great of a rookie quarterback you are, these things just can happen. And honestly, I think Jayden Daniels, I know he threw an interception, and it was obviously hardly one of his better games, clearly. But what I look for in these moments, in this type of game, a game that I said also going to this, this is stacked in the Eagles' favor because of the things that I've already mentioned, like coaching and stuff like that, rookie quarterback, on the road, in Philly. Philly's hot right now, hostile environment. And I think Jayden Daniels was so composed. When you see other quarterbacks really panic, and Caleb Williams, unfortunately for him, really highlights this, you can see the panic. You can see the distress. You can see the confusion. And even though Jayden Daniels was confused at times, it was just great defense. It wasn't rookie confusion where it was like, I don't know what I'm doing. What do I do? What do I do? Where do I go? There was no panic. And that really matters. That really, really matters because, and I always say this, you'll see seasoned veterans panicking. You see seasoned veteran quarterbacks have that panic, and Jayden Daniels did not waver. And as I know, Washington Commanders fans know this, like, Philadelphia is hostile. I mean, like, the Eagles are a really good team this year. What are they? What is their record now? 8-2 or whatever it is now. Yeah, 8-2. And you got the fans booing them in the first quarter, where, like, it's ruthless there. And that's what was really impressive. I mean, to be able to hold the Eagles' opening drive to a field goal attempt, huge. I mean, the Eagles were gaining momentum. That drive up to the field goal was pretty easy, relatively speaking. Like, the Eagles were able to do what they wanted to do right up until it stopped. And so that was huge for the Commanders. And then, of course, the missed field goal, which had nothing to do with the Commanders, but obviously great fortune. I mean, they held them to 3 points at the half. Like, their defense really was taking care of them. And now you have the fans turning on the Eagles. The Eagles players feel it. The fans feel it. Like, the momentum really was going for the Commanders. And then they were able to kind of obviously go up and get that first touchdown. And it felt easy. Right, they got back to the basics, and this is what I even wrote, right? Back to the basics, quick, easy passes, balance with some running, right? And then a design run for Jayden Daniels, all right? I mean, it stunned the crowd. It ripped the momentum, because at this point, the momentum was like kind of even, maybe slightly leaning towards the Commanders, because when you're the home team and your offense isn't getting going and you're kicking field goals, like, you're getting restless, and that's going to be in favor of the Commanders. And then they score first, and now they're up 7-0, and that's like at the point where you're just like, oh my God. Right? Are the Commanders going to run away with this game? And, it was just really impressive. But then the offense just stalled, right? It really stalled. Then Jayden Daniels, I think it was that very next drive, he got sacked like back-to-back times. And the Eagles as a whole did a pretty good job of containing Jayden Daniels, containing his legs, containing his mobility. Like they even said in the broadcast, like, it felt like those quarterbacks were pressured so much more than the numbers really showed, but you could feel some suffocation of Jayden Daniels within that pocket. You could. That to me jumped out in the screen, quite honestly. But the Commanders did a great job of keeping Philly out of the end zone right up until the end, right? I mean, they had that momentum going up until that fourth quarter. And this is why coaches always say this. And it's both real and coach speak, right? Like, that's why we play full 4 quarters, right? That's why we play 60 minutes. And it is true, right? Like, this score was both misleading and accurate to a degree. Like, on one side you could say, yeah, the score is really 26-10. On the other side, you could be like, yeah, the Eagles scored that other touchdown, but at that point, everybody was kind of gassed. The Eagles were pretty much just looking to run the clock out. And yeah, Saquon ripped through, but like, that was kind of like another big chunk play that wasn't necessarily representative of how well the defense played, because they gave up 26 points, but it was also kind of like, again, when you hold a team to, what was it, 6 points going into the fourth quarter, that's really impressive. That really is. They obviously couldn't bring it home, and so it just is what it is. And I do love the trust. Like, I do knock that fourth down going for it, because you kick the field goal, you go up and you take the lead. And again, you have the momentum. The fans are getting angry. The players are going to start to get restless, as they already are. And going for it, like, I do appreciate the trust in Jayden Daniels and that offense. I really, really do. And I think it bodes well for them long term. But when you're trying to win this game situationally, yeah, man, just kick that field goal. But the interception, again, just some, you got to give it up to the Eagles defense and Vic Fangio. I mean, like, this was so much more. This game was honestly more about the Eagles winning than the Commanders losing. That is usually the baseline. Anytime I'm trying to evaluate a game, that is really like the baseline of where everything else kind of comes out of it. It's like, who won this game, who lost this game. And this really was a game won by the Philadelphia Eagles, more so than the Commanders losing this game, which again, I think is a good thing from a long-term perspective, because they're just going to continue to go through growing pains. They're playing tougher teams right now than they've had earlier in this season. And I think the Washington Commanders have been wildly impressive. And even in losses, I'm really impressed, because this game, football is so tricky, right? Because 1 minute the score is like 10-6, and the Commanders have the chance to really win this game. And then before you know it, the score is 26-10. And then before you know it, it's 26-18. And you're like, we're just kind of another prayer away from maybe tying this game up or something. And it's just, the scores aren't always 100% accurate of how the game unfolded. But to me, the other thing that really stands out is that they were 3 for 12 on third down. You're just not going to win games when you're 3 for 12 on third down. You're just not. The Eagles, on the other hand, where were they? The Eagles were 9 for 16, and most of those, on average, I think it was like 6+ yards they had to convert, which is that's a pretty big chunk. These aren't little 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 type situations. So they couldn't stop the Eagles on third down, and they couldn't convert their own third downs, and that's when this game gets kind of blown open from that. Right, Jayden Daniels was 22 for 32, 191 yards, 6 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 81 rating, and 3 sacks, and not really much going from a mobility standpoint. But again, the Eagles held the Commanders to 93 yards rushing. Rookie quarterback on the road. It's a tough spot to be in. It's just a tough spot. He threw to 9 different receivers, which I keep going back and forth on this. When I saw that he threw to 9 different receivers, I go back and forth because I praise quarterbacks when they spread the ball around. I think it's very impressive when you can get everyone involved, and I actually think it's really important from just actually a team building perspective, because it's always tough when a lot of guys don't get touches, and yeah, your team's winning and it feels good, but you start to feel a little disconnected. Even if you just touch the ball once or twice, it's enough to make everyone feel like they played a role in it. So I do love spreading the ball around. I do. But in this type of game, especially when this game is tight like this, you gotta find your security blanket. You gotta get it to your playmakers. I mean, McLaurin was completely shut down, and the way how I know what I'm saying is correct is because when they finally got things going offensively, who did he favor? Zach Ertz. You had your tight end, you had your security blanket, you were able to move the chains, you were able to get a touchdown, 2-point conversion. And that's where then you see Jayden Daniels kind of being like, I just need to, like, it was more like, I'm not spreading the ball around. It was more like, I don't know where to go with the ball, or I don't know what to do in this moment. And it's like, I just got to find someone. It was less intentional. Sometimes spreading the ball around is very intentional. Sometimes this is just what the defense is giving me. This felt more from a place of like, this is not exactly what I want to do. And that's where you got to find your playmakers. And Jayden Daniels will understand that, and will learn that, and will evolve. Like, none of this is meant to be a knock on Jayden Daniels. As you guys know, I couldn't be any higher on him. But sometimes you got to favor your guy. Sometimes you got to find your guy. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Tom Brady, Gronk. It's crazy enough, Zach Ertz, old man Zach Ertz, and Jayden Daniels. I mean, Zach Ertz is a huge reason. They said in the broadcast many times, a huge reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Both Carson Wentz and Nick Foles relied heavily on Ertz. And obviously, I know he's way past of what he was, but he's still that dude, and he still is a security blanket. Every quarterback needs a security blanket, and the way how careers are really starting to unfold, and we see the upper echelon of these quarterbacks, we realize that it's actually not wide receivers. It's not the Tyreek Hills, the Justin Jeffersons. Yeah, they give the really exciting, dynamic, explosive plays, but really the best security blanket is shaping up to be a tight end. I mean, the two best quarterbacks, in the history of the NFL, both of their go-to guys are tight ends. I mean, like that's. I understand it's a small sample size, it's 2 quarterbacks, but that can't be a coincidence. So in this type of game, you do want to see Jayden Daniels relying on who he has that connection with, right? That chemistry with, that person that he can rely on, that big body that he can just get the ball 5 yards. You know they're going to catch it. You know they're going to fall 2 yards ahead, and boom, 7-yard gain just like that, right? Like you want to be able to have that reliability factor. But yeah, listen, there's no slicing it, man. This was a tough game for the Commanders. This was always going to be a tough game, which is why I really, again, I've been hyping up the Commanders big time, arguably more than anyone. And I tried to be like, but we got to keep things in context. This is still a relatively young team, rookie quarterback. They're not all 100% there just yet. They still have a lot more growth to get to, and playing a divisional game against the Philadelphia Eagles, that's a tough spot to be in, especially after another tough physical game playing the Steelers. That just is what it is. The other thing, though, that I think really bodes well for the Commanders moving forward, and this is what I also thought could happen, Dan Quinn knows the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts, this offense pretty much just minus Saquon Barkley, very, very, very well, right? He spent years in Dallas dealing with them. Now he's in Washington. So that bodes well moving forward. It really does. This game absolutely could have unfolded in a way where the Commanders take the lead and win. And maybe even it's their 26-18 win. Like, again, that's where football can be so tricky. You convert a first down here or drop the ball on the third down, and it's a difference between going up by 14 and being down by 14. It's just crazy like that. So there is absolutely a world where the Commanders win this game. They could not execute when they needed to. They had a couple bad throws, a couple dropped passes, some bad decisions in terms of play calling and going for it. And that's what you get here. So, again, though, I still think the Commanders are in great shape. I still think that they are wildly ahead of schedule in terms of what they're looking to accomplish. And even in a loss, even in a less than stellar statistical game from Jayden Daniels, and he didn't have any of those real highlight plays where he makes an unbelievable throw with great timing and anticipation that we know he can do, like with McLaurin and whatnot. Even in that 2-point conversion, you see him. I mean, that is kind of that highlight play, was that 2-point conversion. And the defense was trying to stop it. Like, yeah, everyone knows that this is a long shot, but the defense was still in there. They're still trying to make a play on Jayden. Watching him kind of scramble, run, look for the man, look for Ertz in the end zone, and Ertz makes a great throw, a great catch, and a great throw from Jayden Daniels. Yeah, I still think that's a big play, even though it was all for nothing. It still is, again, is a positive takeaway to me, and really minus that throw where he just kind of got fooled for that interception. Again, he's going up against such a great defensive coordinator versus him, where again all of the cards are stacked in Fangio's way. I almost said Vic Fangio's side, and Jayden Daniels still took care of the ball. He didn't have one of those games where he had like a 4 interception game and a fumble and this and that. He didn't have that, and that alone is really impressive to me. Really impressive. He didn't try to force the ball down the field. He didn't try to do too much. Like he still played, he still was composed, and honestly did what Cliff Kingsbury was asking him to do. That shows tremendous maturity to me. He was consistent the whole time, and I again, I'm still very impressed with what I saw. And I'll talk about this again. There'll probably be a lot of repeats and overlaps for any of the videos tomorrow with like the herd and all that type of stuff, but I really want to get this video out. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Washington Commanders, Jayden Daniels, and this this tough game, losing 26-18? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.